Hi there. Welcome to this mini series on what works for women at work. I'm Evelyn Axelrod, and I'll be your guide on this exciting adventure. By day, I'm the VP of the Career Foundation, an innovative nonprofit organization driving inclusive employment across Canada. Personally, I'm interested in exploring a little more about what works for women like us so we can scale learnings and accelerate gender parity. I'm all about solutions, so join me on this year-long journey and get ready to hear inspiring stories, practical lessons, and powerful mindset shifts that will create leadership transformation. Let's get started. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to What Works for Women at Work. Today we are joined by Manar. Manar is a CEO of Shine Talent Group. Welcome, Manar.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
This is going to be fun, I can already tell. So why don't we jump in? We're getting to know you a little bit more. Tell us about you.
Sure. My name is Manar, and I am a daughter of immigrants who immigrated to Canada when I was 14 years old. Both of my parents and myself are from Sudan. We came to Canada for a better life, of course. And since then, I have been working and studying and climbing that corporate ladder. So I've held many jobs in many different industries, you know, the jobs that we've all had throughout high school and university, working in the service industry, working in customer service, working at farms, bar attending, waiting tables, all of those different jobs that provided me with skills and confidence that I still use today in my current career. I worked at retirement homes. That was my first management job I've ever had, was working at a retirement home, managing the operations, if you will, of that retirement home. And then since then, I've held careers in real estate marketing, in legal operations, in nonprofit, digital marketing, and I'm currently working in influencer marketing in digital operations.
That's an incredible and varied background you have. But the career growth that you've had too is just it's outstanding. And I mean, this is what our parents brought us here for the opportunities to make a better life for ourselves. And we're so grateful for them.
Yes, very much so. It brings me such immense joy to know that my parents are proud. It's kind of when you make an investment at any age, at any time of your life, you really want that investment to pay off. And I think about it, my parents made an investment in our education and in coming to Canada. And to have that investment pay back dividends is nice.
Yeah, incredible. You should be proud also. So you've had such a vast career. Tell us right off the top, what are three top learnings you've had as you've gone through your leadership career?
Certainly. I think the first one is that you are your own advocate. You cannot rely on others, on systems, on places that were built for the success of others to facilitate your success. You are in charge of your own success. And a part of that is advocating for yourself, being your own marketing person, branding yourself, being consistent. So advocating for yourself is, I would say, is the number one lesson that I've learned. Not being shy to speak about what I've been able to do or accomplish, talking about the projects that I spearheaded, kind of being a walking billboard for why you earned a seat at the table. Um, Consistently advocating for ourselves is something so important for women in the workplace. We're taught to be humble, I think, more
Mhm.
often, and this goes against that is don't say you're successful, don't say you're accomplished, don't say this, don't say that. Be humble, or give other people the credit as well. Share that credit. And while some of that is true, of course, being humble helps in other areas in your life, and it's a nice trait to have, but in the workplace, I think if your ultimate goal is to advance your career, we have to also be able to speak to our accomplishments and advocate for ourselves.
Yeah, I think you're so right. Especially coming from an immigrant background, we have been taught to be humble. But on the other hand, I think we also mistakenly think that other people have us on their minds all the time. And that is not true. And you're so right. You have to be a walking billboard so people get to know you, what you have done, what you're capable of doing. So, how can you accomplish that if you're humble? It's just not going to happen, right?
Exactly, you hit the nail on the head. Like you just cannot be both humble and in a way boastful about your accomplishments. And that's what's required for your leadership and people in the desired career that you have to notice you and to give you a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. So so we're talking about sort of some bold moves you've made, some sort of positioning you have had in your career that does go a little bit against the grain, and they're a little bit um, thoughtful, strategic about how you want to grow your career. Can you tell us a little bit about how you've developed that strategic mindset and how it's helped you navigate challenges in the workplace?
Certainly, I think I'll speak a little bit first about what my strategy has and always has been. It's been that way, and I think I will continue to be consistent with that strategy because it's one that provided results in my personal career. So, with that, it was being single-minded and goal-oriented. If I felt that a career move was aligned with the goal that I had set for myself, so the goal I had set for myself was COO by 35. That's a goal I had for myself since my early 20s. So, having graduated university and attended whatever colleges and diplomas and certificates and going in to a workplace, I knew that I wanted to be an executive and I knew that I wanted to be an executive by 35. With that came a lot of challenges along the way because no one was going to hand me an executive role or take a chance on me. But I knew that I had to take whatever steps necessary to get closer to that goal. Sometimes those steps did not make sense to other people or even to myself because it meant taking a pay cut for the right title. It meant making frequent moves, working 2 years in a role. And if I was not promoted or offered a different title that would bring me closer to COO by 35, I would leave and work somewhere else that was more aligned with that goal. So it meant that I took jobs from time to time that were not an increase in pay immediately, but they got me closer to that ultimate target. Enough frequent moves. I know that's the millennial way. We spearheaded the 2 year tenures in many jobs. And I would say that that works. If you are not appreciated or promoted in the place that you currently are at, you have to understand that you have options. You can go somewhere else where you will be appreciated and promoted. And it's all about what you believe your worth and your value are. And if others around you and your current place of employment does not recognize that, it's time to invest in finding a place that does.
And it sounds like it's goal alignment also. So yes, you are, being single-minded. This is the bigger picture that I'm trying to achieve. But if it requires the learning, requires a pay cut, to be able to get into that space where you can learn and get closer to that goal, that makes sense. So having that single-mindedness really informed every decision you made along the way, it sounds like.
Yes, exactly. It was kind of having a beacon, a light at the end of a
Mm.
tunnel, and you only work and take on tasks and take on jobs that will get you closer to that light at the end of that tunnel. And it's not to say that, that's the goal everyone should have. By no means do I expect others to have a goal that is COO by 35. Someone might have a goal that is work-life balance or 4-day work week by 35. Others may have part-time work by 35, financial freedom, whatever it may be. But the idea is to consistently only accept moves or maneuvers that are bringing you closer to that goal. So if it's not bringing you closer to that goal, don't undertake it. Don't make a move unless it's bringing you closer to that goal. And I found that that has been uh, the best way to attain any goal in life is, does it bring me closer? No? Okay. I'm not going to waste my time on it.
So tell me, is it that easy? It's not bringing me to that goal. Okay, I'm not going to waste my time on it. Or was that sort of challenging to work through and make the decision to move yourself forward?
It was definitely challenging because I had to make some tough decisions along the way. So, sometime in my mid 20s, maybe late 20s, I was offered a role that paid really well at the time. I was made an offer that I almost could not refuse. It was going to be life-changing money for someone who had student debt, who came from an immigrant family, who was not offered kind of generational wealth to be able to accomplish what I had wanted to accomplish. That was money that was going to change my life if I had accepted that role. But I understood that that role had a ceiling, that that role meant that I was spending 4 or 5 years working on in an area that would take me so far away from my ultimate goal and my ultimate destination. So it was one of those decisions that was really challenging to make at the time. And I think I spent months almost regretting it, where when I turned down that job, I was thinking, oh, here I am making a budget on my meager little salary, trying to make it work when I could have been living the life. I could have been, traveling or doing something else, or had a title that I'd be more proud of, or what have you. And I think it's life is going to throw you off that goal, because that's just the nature of the way things work. You're going to be made offers and kind of wooed by sparkly things along the path, and you're going to want to pick up everything sparkly along the path. And the hardest part is saying no when it's going to be an immediate little gratification. So that's been the hardest part. It was not always this easy thing. And of course, there have been other times in my life where, things got in the way, and not bad things, good things. I met the love of my life. I got married. I had children, buying a house, things like that are technically not aligned with that goal that I had set for myself. And I knew that they were going to veer me off the course because I was going to have to invest time and energy and money into them. But they made me happy. So, of course, I did those things as well. It's single minded, and having being goal oriented is not necessarily means that you're not going to have a life and you're not going to enjoy anything outside of that specific goal.
And I want to take us there a little bit further. Like, we always talk about wanting it all. And some people say you just can't have it all. But it sounds like you did. It sounds like you did get it all. Could you take us along that journey a little bit?
Oh, this is a loaded one. Because I think it's really easy to present an image of perfection, right? Like, I think we all spend time polishing our image. What we choose to share to the world, whether it be on LinkedIn or on Instagram, or even to our families and friends, is not the struggles. It's not the sleepless nights. It's not the time where you were like, how am I going to pay rent? Or how am I going to figure out my mortgage this month? Those are not the things we share. We share success. We share an image of ourselves that is highly polished and almost enviable. But I think that behind every curtain, there's a little bit of a mess there. Everybody has skeletons in their closet, if you will. And I think the idea of having it all is, one, not something we should even strive towards. So something in my life often suffers. If I'm crushing it at work, my partner has to pick up the parenting, the household chores. If I'm doing a great job at home and I'm being super attentive and things are going really well with my kids, I know I have a colleague at work who's picking up the slack for me. if I am, spending a lot of time at the gym and taking care of my health, I know that my kids are possibly watching TV and maybe they're not getting that stimulation that they require from a parent. So something is always on the back burner. The important thing is just being consistent and making sure that it's not always the same thing that's on the back burner. You just rotate what's on the back burner so that you can continue to advance all the areas of your life. I think another thing that was something we don't talk about often is a supportive partner. For me, having an equitable relationship, I'm not going to say equal because that's a triggering word for many, but having a partner who believes in equity in a relationship and in parenting and in careers is a game changer. I don't have a marriage where I come home and I do all the chores and I do all the parenting and I do all the things. I have a partner who contributes at least 50% to everything that we do together. So it definitely made things a bit easier and it made it easier for both of us to advance our careers because it reduced friction and offered me lots of time to pursue my MBA or to work overtime when needed. And that's been the secret to it all is having that support network.
Thank you for taking us there. It does not come easy. And you're right. We do have this shining image when it all comes together. In the moments it all come together. But it
Yes,
is not reality. And you're right. We should never strive for it. But there are things that can help us along the way. And what I've heard you said is investing in important relationships that could help to build your network, your ecosystem of support. So if that's a relationship at work where you sort of give and take and support each other, so you have each other's backs. And when you need to be at home, that person understands and can support you there, and vice versa. And then in your personal life, those relationships where you invest in each other and are there for each other, so you can both achieve goals. And my dad always says, you strive to hit the stars, and if you don't, you fall in the clouds. But at least you've got the clouds there to support you, right? And that network.
yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
that's a great metaphor to use because it's exactly like that. You really do need that support network. And it doesn't even have to be a partner, it could be a parent, a friend, a sibling, a colleague, whoever it is that can support you so you can aim to have it all is all you can ask for.
Yeah. And certainly when we do that, we're also those people who give back. So we're supporting other people in their own growth as well.
It's true. It's very reciprocal, I
Yeah,
think, is yeah.
lovely. Thank you so much. So, I've moved away from some of the questions I wanted to ask you. So I'll come back and shape it down. Um, is there anything you would change in your career? And what could we learn about that possible change or shift that you think you could have made?
I think I would go back to my younger self and I would offer different advice than the advice that I was getting at the time. We hear so much advice about, for as women specifically, you read books, lean in, you know, vulnerable leadership, whatever it may be. And the advice tends to be more or less the same cookie cutter advice. Be vulnerable, lean into your feelings and emotions, lead with femininity, and all of those things. That would be delightful had the world been an equitable place. And they're coming from leaders who have already made it. So they're already at a place where they have power and authority. So they have the privilege of leading in the ways that they're describing or that they're would like. It's kind of aspirational in a way. But was it pragmatic? I would say absolutely not. It was not a pragmatic approach because when you're climbing the ladder, you are in it. You need advice that you can actually use, something pragmatic. Tell me what to do. Don't tell me to be vulnerable and because I'm not that leader yet. I'm not where you are yet. And I think consistently hearing that messaging and trying to implement it in, when I first became a manager or what have you, and having it not work and it taking a long time for me to figure out why is it that others can lead with with their passions and with their vulnerabilities and wear their hearts on their sleeves, but I couldn't, is definitely something that I'd go back and change. And I'd offer myself way more pragmatic advice. No, don't, you're not there yet. You don't get that privilege of lead. You get to model that and you get to have people watch you do that when you make it in your career. But right now, we are not in a world where that offers women the same privileges that offers men. So it's okay to adapt to the workplace.
That's such deep reflection. I mean, it's so, I mean, we do learn from people who've gone before us, and there's meaningful things to learn from that. But when they're sharing that information, they are sharing it from their current context. And they have oftentimes the luxury to reflect, and it's a different sort of status that they have achieved. Like you're in sort of a rat race. And being vulnerable, do you have time, space, safety for that? Is a really good question for us. And one of the things that I is, yeah, cringe every time I hear it is bring your whole self to work and your authentic self to work. And I'd love to do that, but are you ready for my authentic self at work? And so, it's really interesting the things we say and think it's applicable across the board. It is not. You have to have that kind of environment that will allow you to be your authentic self. And so really, really interesting for us to be thinking about, yes, we want to continuously learn, but who we learn from at the stages in our career that we're taking that learning is really important.
It's you hit the nail on the head there. It is a different vantage point, and I think a lot of leaders who are at the C-suite and have been for a long time are offering advice from that vantage point because they have forgotten. Frankly, they have forgotten what it was like to be on that ladder, making that climb as well. And it's been a long time. For many of them, they've been holding these positions for years, and things have changed since then. So I think it's that's the advice that I would give myself, or that's what I would change. I would do that very differently.
Thank you. That's really valuable. Thank you for bringing truth to the table. So, this feels like it's gone really quickly. But I don't want you to leave us yet without telling us and sharing with us some of the resources that you've used to help you sort of, create the perspective to transition you into this growth.
Yes, I'll speak a little bit about my experience about what didn't work for me,
Mm.
and we can chat a little bit about what is working for me. When I was a younger manager, I worked in environments that focused quite a bit on coaching or having a career coach or a mentor of some type. And I tried very, very hard to make it work, but I just could not. And I couldn't put my finger on why I didn't, it didn't click with me and didn't jive with me. And I think it took me a long time to understand that I seek expertise in the person that I'm wanting to be coached by. And the nature of coaching tends to spill over in other areas. So let's say you go to a coach and you want them to coach you on management, right? And you yourself are a manager. Eventually, that will spill over to financial management. It'll spill over to operations. They're coaching on a lot of areas that they're not necessarily well versed or considered an expert in. But the nature of coaching has a person who has the power to coach and someone who has less power, the mentee or the person who's being coached. So what I found really helpful is to find people that I looked up to and admired that I've kind of collected throughout the years from many jobs or many interactions that I look up to in a specific area. So I could have a friend or a colleague who is an expert in managing people, and that will be the person that I go to for advice about people management. I could have a friend who is the best at sourcing consultants or working with external parties, and they've delivered many a project or they're a project management whiz. And that's who I go to when I have a project management question or I don't know what I'm doing in that regard. and just kind of having a personal board of directors for your own career, collecting those people along the way, making sure that you are reciprocal in that relationship, offering them your expertise as well and what you bring to the table. And having that exchange has been so valuable for my career. From having friends have looked over my resume for my first jobs and what have you. They were recruiters or um, having other friends who are stellar financial managers. All of those people that I've collected along the way have made a huge impact on my career. And I would say an additional resource has been education. I cannot emphasize this enough because it challenges the imposter syndrome. When you complete a course and you pass and you do a good job, it challenges your perception of yourself as someone who does not have the expertise. And I think that's the hardest part is sometimes you are the person who knows the most about a specific topic, but you stay silent or you stay quiet because in your head you're not, or someone else may know more. Just having some type of degree, certification, diploma, course under your belt will challenge your perception of yourself, and you will be able to be a bit more vocal and present yourself to be the expert you already are.
That's interesting. I've heard and been advised around creating a personal board of directors. I think that's really powerful. And you know, when they talk about you are an average of the 5 people you spend most time with. And these are the people with expertise. Like, you know, your trajectory is limitless, right? So that's really powerful. But yeah, I mean, the education, I think to a fault, a lifelong learner. I've got to chill out a little bit on the credentials. But it is true. It does give you the confidence that you have learned, you have challenged your thinking, and stretch yourself. And so it does help you with that imposter syndrome. There are women, though, that the imposter syndrome continues to be strong. And it is, you know, it is difficult for them to continuously be like, you know, fighting against this. And credentials are helpful. But how have you, without credentials, um, you know, really sort of reflected on that imposter syndrome that comes? And so the education is there, but is there anything else that you find have been helpful for folks or for yourself?
I think the voice gets quieter.
Mm,
The more it's like anything else in the world, the more you practice and more you ignore it, the quieter it gets, right? It's you feed the voices that we feed and the voices that we give into become louder and louder, and the voices that we ignore become diminished. And I will say that it's not gone. So sometimes I'm in a meeting and I realize, wait, everyone's waiting for me to make a decision. Hang on. I don't know what I'm doing. Pause. I'm just a girl, you know. That's my inner monologue, or that's a realization that sometimes dawns on me that it's too big a decision for me to make, or it's too hard for me to do. So I still get that voice. It's not that it's ever gone away, really. But I think what I've gotten really good at is to just ignore it and to persist regardless, the faking it. So the more I've faked it, the more I've made it. It really is fake it till you make it with imposter syndrome. Yes.
mm,
Do I feel like I'm confident and I know what I'm doing? I don't. I don't feel that way. But I get up, I put on a crisp, clean white shirt, and I say to myself, you can do it. You're gonna do it. Pretend. Pretend until you can. And I think having pretended for long enough, that voice gets so quiet that it's almost not there anymore. It comes up once in a while, you know. She does like to pop by and say hello and say you can't do this, or you don't know how to do this, or everyone here thinks you're a fraud, or what have you. She comes up once in a while, but I just ignore her and she gets quiet again. But the more I listen to her, I think I listened to her quite a bit in my 20s. And she held me back from trying so many new things, from doing so many things that ignoring her, the results of ignoring her have been um, amazing, that I never want to listen to her again. So I think it's faking it. I know it's not the answer anyone wants to hear, because I wish there was a switch you could switch off and you could just have the confidence and you could just go into any conversation and be the best version of yourself. But the reality is, if you are struggling with confidence and with self-esteem or imposter syndrome, that is a lifelong struggle. There's no switch to turn that off. You will always have that person in the back of your head that says, maybe you really can't do it. But it's whether or not you listen. That's what changes the your life's trajectory. So if you don't listen, if you say, okay, cool, maybe I can't, but I'm going to do it anyway. And you don't even have to believe that you can. You just have to do it. And the more you ignore the voice, the quieter it gets. So
Yeah.
that's the only advice, unfortunately,
I
I
love
have.
that. I love that. And the way I frame it in my context is I feel it and I do it anyway. And I remember actually folks asking me, how do you do these you go up on a stage and you talk or you do these, big sessions and don't you get nervous? I'm like, of course I'm nervous. My knees are shaking under this table. You can't see it. But what I want to offer to folks is more important than what's happening with my knees. So you gotta feel it and but do it anyway, and it does get easier. And I remembered it wasn't so long ago I learned something about those voices. It's funny you call it she. The It's from positive intelligence, and it talks about naming that voice something, you call it. So for me, I've called it a name that of a person I don't like. So it's easy for me to say, shut up and take a back seat, or shut up and watch me. And so when that voice comes in my mind, it's like, okay, this is exactly what I needed. Now I know I'm going to do it because you're telling me I can't. And I keep challenging myself to do the opposite of what it's telling me to do. So that's been helping me to push my
Yes,
forward. Yeah. But it's
I
so fun,
love
the
that.
shared
I
experience.
Yeah, I love that very much, because I think it's, for me, it was when I was younger, I used to think it was me, that the voice
Mhm.
inside my head telling me you couldn't and you can't and you won't, and everyone thinks this or that of you, was me. But I think thinking that way gives it so much power and gives it so much authority, that you think those thoughts of yourself. So if you think you can't do it, you really won't be able to. So I think what helped me is thinking about it as someone else's voice. It's not really my voice. It's a combination of the voices maybe I heard through my childhood.
Mm.
Maybe it's whoever it is. It doesn't matter who it is. And that's why I think I call her she, or someone else that's not me, because it takes away some of the power that the voice has. I think we all have in our, somewhere deep down inside, the desire to prove others wrong about us when they think negatively of us. It doesn't matter what. Like, sometimes we don't like it when people don't like us. We don't like, everybody wants to be liked and everybody wants to be thought of highly. So I think giving that voice another personality, it's not you, it's not your voice, really helps you say, okay, cool, I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah. And I mean,
Thanks for your input, but shut it.
exactly. Exactly. But it's all right. Like those things that we've been surrounded by childhood, other experiences that we've had that have influenced our subconscious and, how we see ourselves. It really has nothing to do with who we are. And we do need to package it and say, I see you, you're not influencing me, I move on, right? And so, I mean, this is such a big topic. We can go on and on about it. And maybe we will, Manara. I may have to come back to you for more. But thank you for sharing that. That's really, really helpful and practical. Can I ask you for your favorite book? Or podcast or something that it really helps you in your daily thinking and strategic mindset development?
You're not going to like this, but it's meditation.
Yes, I'm gonna love that. Tell me more.
I I do have a meditation app. I'm happy to send it to you after as well, but I do meditate uh, every single day. That is how I start every single day is with a meditation. And the intention of my meditation is just to calm, center, and be in charge of my brain, of my thoughts, of my feelings, to remind myself that I am in charge and to be more intentional, less reactive, more proactive. It's one of those things that I think many people start their day with the news or with advice or with external input or external stimulus in general or seeking external knowledge. And I found that that just does not work for me the same way the coaching didn't work for me. Uh, what works for me is starting inside, going inwards, focusing, recentering, figuring it out, cleaning house every day is what I call it. I call it cleaning house every day. So the same way you maintain your home, you clean, you cook a meal, you clean your kitchen, you clean your workspace, you clean that. We don't do that for our brains and our hearts and our souls and all of the ways that the main driver of everything in our lives is your thoughts, your feelings, your intuition. And I clean them every day. So I spend some time dedicating some meditation time. And I know it's not what you asked, which is favorite book, favorite podcast, but I really do spend that time just on me.
No, it's an important practice. And it's sort of, I feel like I want to name this video interview Intentional Self-Leadership. Can I tell you why? Because what I've heard from you is that you call it single-mindedness, but it's an intentional focus on your goal of, reaching COO at 35. Um, being really clear about the people you surround yourself with. Because, they nourish you, they help you to achieve your goal, you nourish them. Being this practice of mindfulness and being intentional to stay centered, to own your thoughts. Really, like, I mean, that is leading yourself and showing up as the person you want to show up as every day. That is really, for me, really a powerful practice. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for listening. I'm excited you enjoyed it. I thought it's definitely a strange thing to share with people when they ask, "What's your favorite book?" And I'm like, I don't have one. It's up here.
Yeah, no, I
It's
love it.
inside.
I love that. Thank you very much. Look, you've taught us so much in this very short time. I can't wait to continue conversations with you. We'll find a way to do that. So thanks again for joining us. And I want to encourage folks who are listening to us to follow you, Manar, on LinkedIn. Is that a good place to follow you?
Of course, please do. I'd love to connect with all of your listeners and viewers on whatever platform. And I would love to be a resource for women climbing up that ladder.
Thank you. This is exactly what we need, and we'll continue to have conversations like this to help us grow. Thanks everyone for listening, and join us again in 2 weeks when we bring another awesome guest to share their leadership growth. Thank you.
Thank you.